Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Cellular Respiration lecture video number 2. Now, this right here is a picture. It's like an overall summary of cellular respiration. Now, I do not expect you to understand what this picture is. All right. I don't, at this point, you should not know what a lot is happening here. All you're going to do is you're going to recognize things. You're going to see things like ATP. You'll notice that O2, oxygen, glucose is here, oxygen, water, CO2, CO2. So you should recognize some things here from our last unit. Well, by the end of this lecture, you will understand just this very top section. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview. Cellular respiration is the process in which our cells and all living things, they go through these processes in order to make energy, ATP, 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 and down here. This is the goal of aerobic cellular respiration. Aerobic meaning with oxygen. Okay, the goal, this is how we work, this is how we function. We need to make energy, and we need food, we need oxygen, and with the help of those and a bunch of more chemicals and enzymes, we can produce a decent amount of ATP to help us survive and do life's processes. Without oxygen, it's a different path. Not much ATP is made. Look at this big zero over here. Doesn't do. We would die under anaerobic conditions, but our bodies do go through anaerobic conditions when we are exercising and we're doing certain things, and we run out of oxygen for short windows of time. We become anaerobic for short periods of time within our muscles and our cells. All right, so this is a big overview. I don't expect you to understand it yet, but what we're going to do today, this lecture is going to focus on this very top part called glycolysis. Okay, so glycolysis is the process of breaking down glucose, right? And when glucose gets broken down, it gets turned into a new chemical called pyruvic acid. Okay, this is what we're going to talk about in a second. During this process, it has a net overall 2 ATP are produced, which is good. The cell gets a little bit of energy. And now let's look at this, NADH. It looks like what we had in our last chapter, but without the P. In photosynthesis, we had the NADPH. Now we have NADH. This is an electron carrier of what you need to know. A hydrogen and an electron carrier is what it is, NADH. So during glycolysis, NADH is made, okay? 2 ATP are made in pyruvic acid. So now let's look at the details of this very top section of the overview. All right, so here's glycolysis. Here's glucose, 6-carbon molecule. It undergoes glycolysis. So this is glycolysis taking place right here. As glycolysis takes place, pyruvic acid is formed. All right, and what is that? Well, glucose got chopped up. It got broken into halves. And now there's 2 3-carbon molecules, both of which are called pyruvic acid. Sometimes the term pyruvate, it means the same thing as pyruvic acid. So this is pyruvate, this is pyruvic acid, same thing. During this process, well, glucose gets oxidized, all right? So it loses electrons. Those electrons are picked up by NAD+. This is an organic electron carrier. NAD+ picks up those electrons and those hydrogens, and it makes NADH. Very similar process as to what you saw in our last chapter with NADP becoming NADPH, all right? But we don't have a P because this is not photosynthesis. This is cellular respiration. So NAD plus picks up electrons and hydrogens, making NADH. During this process, a total of 2 ATP are made. Actually, to be honest with you, 4 ATP are made, but 2 are what is netted. This process requires 2 ATP to take place. So it makes 4 ATP, but uses up 2. So the overall net, 2 ATP are produced. Okay, I'm not going to confuse you and ask you questions about how many are total are made and then how many are used. I'm going to just ask you total ATP. How much total ATP are made in glycolysis? And the answer is 2 total ATP are made in glycolysis. Where does this process happen? Well, it happens in the cytoplasm, and sometimes the term cytosol is used for the cytoplasm. That's the same thing. Now, to do this step, no oxygen is required. Oxygen is not going into any step here. This is not aerobic or oxygenated respiration. Excuse me. This is glycolysis. It will work if oxygen is present. It will work if oxygen is not present. It does not matter in this environment. Okay, what am I showing you down here? This is showing you the electron carrier called NAD+. It picks up 2 hydrogens and 2 electrons. All right, and when it does that, it becomes NADH over here. Okay, this is what it is. Carries 2 electrons. Showing you right here. So NAD+ becomes NADH right there. Right here, NAD+ is reduced and NADH is made. So let's talk about this again. Glucose is oxidized, so an oxidation goes with the reduction. NAD+ gets reduced and it adds hydrogens and electrons to it. Okay, this is showing you the locations. So mitochondria is where the next part of cellular respiration could take place, aerobic respiration, but not glycolysis. Okay, glycolysis happens in the cytoplasm, the cytosol. That's where it takes place. And over here in prokaryotes do not have a mitochondria, but they do have a cytosol. This is where glycolysis would be taking place. The reason I'm showing you the plasma membrane, this is where the other part, aerobic respiration, would take place inside of a bacteria. So when bacteria would take place in the plasma membrane, the next parts of aerobic respiration, and glycolysis will take place in the cytosol. For eukaryotes, mitochondria is where aerobic respiration takes place and glycolysis takes place in the cytoplasm. Okay. Showing you again, now we just covered this very top section.